Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form, which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of a speaker's request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time, in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Peoria City Council meeting will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of quiet reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Youth Council Liaison Owen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Bensbacher.
Here.
Councilmember Finn.
Here.
Councilmember Hunt.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
Here.
Council Liaison Edwards.
Here.
And Council Liaison Owen.
Here.
Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of May 2nd, 2017. We are going to begin with presentations this evening. We have two, and I am going to adjust our agenda a little bit and begin with a proclamation recognizing Older Americans Month. I'm going to ask Vice Mayor Edwards to join me down front, please. All right. Older Americans Month. Did you know that May was Older Americans Month? Yay! So each May, the Administration for Community Living facilitates the celebration of Older Americans Month to help raise community awareness about the contributions of older Americans. So tonight, we are very happy to present several community members with a proclamation. So allow me to read the first one. This is a City of Peoria proclamation. Whereas the City of Peoria includes older Americans who richly contribute to our community. And whereas we acknowledge that what it means to age has changed for the better. And whereas the City of Peoria is committed to supporting older Americans as they take charge of their health, explore new opportunities and activities, and focus on independence. And whereas the City of Peoria can provide opportunities to enrich the lives of individuals of all ages by involving older adults in the redefinition of aging in our community, promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, encouraging older adults to speak up for themselves and others, and providing opportunities for older adults to share their experiences. And whereas the City of Peoria encourages every resident to take time during this month to acknowledge older adults as influential and vital components of our community. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Carlett, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Arizona, do hereby proclaim May 2017 as Older Americans Month. that, we would like to present these proclamations to a number of community members. So I'm going to ask them to come down here. And we're going to begin with David Kirchbaum. Come on. Yes, you are number one. Right here, so we can get a photo.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
Don't I get one, Bridget?
He's asking for his council member. Yes,
Okay.
thank you,
Thank you very much.
congratulations. Bob Meisinger. That's all right, watch your step there. Here, congratulations.
Very much.
Pleasure. Hal Shockley. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Lori Norris. Takes a village, huh? Thank you. You're welcome. Come on down, come on. There, here we go. Should we get one with Kathy? Come on, make her come in our picture. Come on in. Let's do one more. Thank you. Congratulations. William and Jean Waltman. No? Did we not see them? Were they not able to make it? All right. Then we are to our last but not least, Lee Witt. Right. Congratulations. That's it. Thank you all. Appreciate it. All right, we will now move on to our regularly scheduled presentation, and that is the City Manager's Excellence Awards. Mr. Swenson?
Thank you, Mayor Carlett, and I'll ask Laura Krass, our Human Resources Director, to kick us off here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're pleased to present the 2016 City Manager's Excellence Awards. Each year since 2009, we have presented these awards to city employees who have demonstrated excellence in their job duties, those employees that have gone above and beyond their job duties. Any employee may nominate another employee, and once again this year we received so many nominations from employees detailing some amazing work that's being done by their coworkers, by their staff, by their supervisors. And these nominations were all reviewed carefully by city management, and award recipients were selected. It was a very difficult process because there was a lot of great nominations, a lot of amazing work that's being done. But it really shows how employees are dedicated and committed to the job at City of Peoria.
Thank you, Laura. And as the mayor and council knows, we've been doing this for several years. And as you always want to do at council meetings, you recognize the great work of our employees. And day in and day out, we have, I believe, the best city employees of any city anywhere. And that shows up in their day-to-day work. What we're doing in this award, as we've done in past award ceremonies, is recognize sort of the best of the best. As Laura mentioned, these are nominees that have been made by fellow employees. And we have had the difficult challenge of awarding the winners. It's been a lot of fun, and we have a lot of winners here, a lot of larger teams this year than some years past, so there'll be groups of employees coming up for a number of the awards. And I'll just go over quickly the categories. Community Involvement Award is given to an employee or group of employees who have advanced the city's civic engagement. The Diversity Award is given to an employee or group of employees who have taken proactive steps to advance the city's diversity initiative and standing as a leader in the workplace for diversity and inclusion. The Efficiency Award is given to an employee or group of employees who have advanced the city's efficiency efforts by streamlining processes, cutting expenses, or maximizing resources. The Sustainability Award is given to an employee or group of employees who have taken proactive steps to advance the city's position as a leader in environmental stewardship. The Distinguished Service Award is given to an employee who has demonstrated exemplary service by going over and above their normal job responsibilities to advance the city's mission. And the Leadership Award is given to an employee who has gone above and beyond in leading people and projects. Jeff Tyne will announce the first group of winners.
Thank you. And good evening, Mayor and Council. And I'll begin with the announcement for the Community Involvement category. To be recognized in the Community Involvement category, employees will demonstrate the proactive steps to advance the city's standing through community engagement and civic involvement. This year, the Community Involvement Award goes to Randy Proch, Daniel Murillo, Melissa Sigmund, Brianna Cortinas, Heather Sorden, Christina Perez, and Kristen Hall. And please. So just a little background for you. This group here developed what is termed the Livability Initiative Team, which was an effort to explore how to make Peoria become the community of choice for our future generations. And by researching best practices, creatively engaging Peoria residents, and brainstorming a lot of solutions, the team identified elements that ultimately would attract and retain the talent workforce in our community for the future. This team really, throughout its effort, exemplified innovation and collaboration in the workplace in our organization. And with each individual here stepping out above their day-to-day activities to really lend their insight and perspective. And the result was a work plan that was shared with the City Council at their workshop and offered real concrete steps to build a positive and energetic sense of place right here in Peoria. So congratulations.
Congratulations. She's going to snap a picture of us, and then you will ask to walk through and shake hands with our elected officials. And Steve, too. You can shake his hand.
Okay, the next award is for the diversity category. Recognition in the diversity category is given to an employee or group of employees who advance the city's diversity initiative through proactive steps in workplace diversity and inclusion. This year, the Diversity of Excellence Award goes to Ben Arroyo, Heather Sorden, Janet Ramsey, Jason Christofferson, Jay Davies, Michael Warrow, Sandy Bensick, and Stella Sheaves. Please come on down. Get your awards. As they're coming down, I want to tell you what these great recipients have done this year. So these recipients were trained and certified as Franklin Covey facilitators for a general all-city course, as well as a 6-hour leadership course. Their effort resulted in educating employees at all levels on the subject of diversity and inclusion and how to appreciate the uniqueness that we all have.
It is a rope process. Absolutely. Congratulations again. Are you on everyone? I tried, but I missed it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
This was good.
Next, it's my privilege to give out the Excellence Award for Efficiency. And this is given to an employee or a group of employees who advance the city's position as a leader in responsible stewardship of public resources. The winners in this category is the team responsible for the successful New River Water Transition Project. Team members are Elizabeth Adams, Kent Buckingham, Eddie Rodriguez, Betsy Wagner, Tracy Dalgish, Arnold Reyes, Brian Sensiger, Howell Lindsay, Yanni Kalizas, Brent Mattingly, and Mike Weber. These recipients planned, organized, and executed a series of complex, critical projects to ensure that all of the customers of the New River water system were seamlessly integrated into the City of Peoria utility system. These projects included customer communications, converting customers to the city's billing system, replacing all residential water meters, adjusting customer accounts for a property tax offset credit, and responding to all customer inquiries. Thank you.
Really nice.
Good evening. The Sustainability Award is given to an employee or group of employees who demonstrate proactive steps to improve environmental sustainability in a way that advances the city's position as a leader in environmental sustainability. This year, the Sustainability Award goes to Kelly Kincaid, Tanya Edmondson, Bill Moss, Jennifer Stein, Christina Perez, Mike Iverson, Jody Latimer, and Irene Charles. These recipients were instrumental in the planning, organizing, and marketing of the first annual 2016 Planetpalooza Earth Festival. From inception to completion, each individual lent their expertise, insight, creative talent, and staffing resources to make Planetpalooza a success.
Next up is the Distinguished Service Award. The Distinguished Service Award is given to an employee who continuously exceeds their job responsibilities to advance the mission of the city. This year, this award goes to Rick Marzik. Rick is known as the guru for pavement striping and public works. Rick has been the lead equipment operator in charge of pavement striping operations for nearly 12 years without incident. His careful coordination of the annual striping maintenance plan and the pavement preservation program has saved the city time and significant amounts of money. Rick is commonly called upon by other agencies across the state for his experience in pavement striping, establishing himself as a technical leader in his field. He is also well known for sharing his knowledge with anyone interested in learning more about striping equipment or pavement striping operations. Please join me in congratulating Rick Marzik for receiving the Distinguished Service Award.
Last but certainly not least, the Leadership Award is a special award given to an employee who has gone above and beyond in leading people and projects. And this year's recipient is Walter Crenshaw. Walter is the president of the AFSCME Local and a good friend. I really value Walter's leadership in so many different ways. And Walter came into the role of president of the union at a very difficult time. Several years ago, when the person who had the position passed away unexpectedly, Walter stepped up and immediately established a very collaborative relationship with everyone, both within the bargaining unit and in management of the department in the city and of the city council. Walter always attends all of the council meetings, all of the council workshops, is always there for all of us when we need to discuss an issue that has to do with the workforce broadly. Walter is also a leader in building capacity within his organization and leads by example with the others on the executive board of AFSCME, and is someone who has made me a better manager. When I'm kind of getting tired and don't want to go out at 6 a.m. to meet with the troops, Walter is always out there saying, hey, come on, you can do this, you can get out there. And I really appreciate that, Walter. Thank you so much.
A lot of amazing work that was done. And there was also all these nominees nominations were received from fellow employees for all of those. So I want to recognize all of those individuals as well. And I think all the nominees and the award recipients deserve our applause. If you could join me.
City of Peoria is very fortunate to have the most professional, competent, and amazing employees that I've ever met. So congratulations to all of you. Go ahead. All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes liquor licenses or other types of items that require a public hearing. If there is any member of the public present who wants to address a public hearing that is on the consent agenda, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. This item will be removed from the consent agenda and heard during the normal course of the regular agenda. This public hearing is regarding a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Smash Burger, 16955 North 75th Avenue. Is there a member of the public that would like to address the public hearing that is on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Council, are there any items to be removed from consent? Do I have a motion?
I'll motion. Second.
Thank you. Council, please vote. And the consent agenda passes unanimously. We will now move on to new business. First item on the agenda is 15R. This is a public hearing, conditional use permit appeal, Quick Trip 484, 95th Avenue and Olive. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Chris Hawkes, our Community Development and Planning Director, will make this presentation.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item 15R tonight is an appeal of a decision issued by the Planning and Zoning Commission on a conditional use permit for a new Quick Trip. The applicant for the case is the Quick Trip Corporation. They are represented by Mr. Brian Greathouse of the law firm of Birch and Cracchiolo. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit for a new proposed Quick Trip at the southwest corner of 95th and Olive, indicated on the red square on the screen. The site is approximately 4.1 gross acres in size. The Quick Trip would consist of 10 gas pumps and a convenience store of approximately 5,800 square feet in size. Okay, the 2.7 acre site, again, is indicated on red on the screen. It's located at the southwest corner of 95th and Olive. This is a signalized intersection with Olive Avenue designated as an arterial roadway and 95th Avenue designated as a collector roadway. In terms of the land use context in the area, I'll start to the north of the site and work myself clockwise. To the north is apartments, and then to the east of that is vacant commercially zoned land, Maranatha Baptist Church to the north of it. On the northeast corner is an existing Circle K and vacant land zoned commercial around it. To the east, across 95th Avenue, is the large lot community of West Olive Farms. South of the Quick Trip and the vacant land around it is traditional neighborhoods of La Jolla Grove, and further to the south, Aaron Grove. And then to the west of the site is an existing mini storage operation. Now, the Quick Trip site is part of a larger 16-acre commercial parcel. This parcel, which includes the Quick Trip site at the corner, has been zoned commercial since 1984. However, in 2002, the site, along with the La Jolla Groves parcel to the south, was rezoned to a planned area development. So it's a customized zoning district where standards can be customized to fit the context in the area. So the southern half of that PAD, again, was La Jolla Groves. The northern half of that PAD was the commercial portion of that zoning case. So this graphic now illustrates the zoning in the area, and as you can see on the site, it has commercial PAD zoning. The PAD happens to align with the city's intermediate commercial or C2 district. This happens to be the most common commercial zoning district in the city. So in terms of permitted uses by right in this district, it would include things like grocery stores, retail, restaurants, fast food, and the like. Within the context of zoning, we also have what are called conditionally permitted uses or conditional use permits. And these are uses that, by nature of their physical or operational characteristics, might require additional scrutiny. And so through the process, we have the ability to enable or to place additional limitations on the case based on its context. So in this case, a gas station use is a conditional use permit in this zoning category. Typically with gas stations, some of the impacts we see for this use include things like light and glare. Sometimes we hear about noise. It could be the amount of buffering that's in the area, or it could be the turning movements, as there are usually a variety of turning movements that take place on the site. But one point to make that unlike zoning, and this is not a zoning decision this evening, but unlike zoning, the zoning or the appropriateness of commercial on this site or the larger corner is not in question tonight. The zoning is already in place. What we are talking about tonight is a specified use and whether, based on our criteria, the impacts have been appropriately mitigated based on the area. Okay, this is the conceptual development plan that you see on the screen. Again, this is, you can see the convenience store, a little shy of 5,800 square feet, and the gas canopy, 10-pump gas canopy. The Quick Trip, like all Quick Trips throughout the valley, operates 24 hours a day, all days of the week. Looking at the screen, you can see some circles, a green circle and a red circle. These are where the access points occur into the site. So the green circle means this is full access, meaning that I have full movement. I can, if you look at the access point on Olive Avenue that's green, I can turn left and westbound on Olive, or I can turn right. Also, if I'm entering the site on Olive, I can turn left into it. You'll see the red circle in the middle, and that's what we call a right in or right out. You can see the pork chop. That will constrain movement. You can only turn right, and you cannot turn left into the site from Olive. And then you can also see the access point along 95th, which is full access as well. Other plan items, when the site plan was being reviewed, the access point along 95th was aligned so that the access point was between lot lines to try to prevent or minimize light and glare on some of the adjacent properties to the east. Also, the parking screen wall that we have in place is heightened a little bit to, again, minimize some of the light and glare. Also, when looking at the canopy, signs along the canopy are constrained to the north and west sides of that canopy so that we don't have signs, again, showing to the neighborhood to the east. This graphic here is what the rendering of the Quick Trip. This is what they call their Generation 3 concept. It's our newer concept that you're starting to see at a few locations in the valley. The 67th Avenue in Happy Valley is the Gen 3 concept. So in addition to the conditional use permit, the city's zoning ordinance also places additional restrictions on gas stations throughout the city. So this is uniform throughout the city. For example, we require a minimum frontage on Arterial Street. This does meet that requirement with 415 feet on Olive. We require the canopy building and equipment to be at least 200 feet from residential. This does exceed that. It's at 235 feet. We also require gas stations to be, when located on the same side of the street, to be at least 500 feet apart. And this is a nod to, you might recall a few years ago when we had a couple gas stations at 83rd and Deer Valley at the Fry's location. So it was to prevent gas stations in close proximity. Also, perimeter setbacks. This station does meet all our setback requirements. Also, the canopy lighting will meet dark sky, will be dark sky compliant. It will be flush, so the fascia of the canopy will obscure the lights. And also we require that any fuel tanks that are above 1,000 gallons to be underground, and they will indeed be on this site. So as you know, with the conditional use permit, we have a public outreach process. So when the application comes in, we provide what's called a notice of application that's sent to all property owners within a 600-foot radius and all registered HOAs within 1 mile. And then when the cases are ready for hearing, we repeat the same process, but we also include a sign that's posted on site and also an advertisement in the local newspaper. Through the course of the case, we did receive 4 letters in opposition, and we did receive 1 letter in support. These were received on the few days preceding the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I'll speak to in a minute. In terms of the concerns from those opposing the case, there was concerns about what impacts this use would have on Sun Valley Elementary School, which is about half mile to the south on 95th Avenue. There was also concerns about whether the area needed another quick trip, whether it was appropriate in this area, concerns about impact on home values, concerns about traffic congestion, and namely the impacts on some of the neighborhoods to the south. And there was some concern that this type of use would attract a transient population. So a Planning and Zoning Commission was held on March 16th, 2017. There were 4 speakers from the public in opposition to the request. Also note that we did receive speaker request forms from 8 additional parties that were in opposition but elected not to speak. The Planning and Zoning Commission, after deliberation, voted to approve the case by a 4-to-1 vote. And after that, we have what's called an appeal window, and during that time, we did receive a valid appeal of that decision filed by Mr. Jason Wraith, who lives in the Aaron Groves subdivision to the south. In speaking to some of the concerns, there were concerns about southbound traffic exiting Quick Trip on 95th Avenue. There was a concern or an observation that while patrons could go to the light at the 95th and Olive, there was an observation that perhaps the left turn bay was short, and that would frustrate some of the patrons. And then from that, the patrons would then be encouraged to travel south through 95th and over to Butler and up 99. So the concern was that would create a lot more cut-through traffic in the neighborhood. And the overriding concern is whether 95th Avenue really should be considered a residential street. Is it appropriate for what the appellant saw as more commercial traffic in the area? So as part of the application, we do require a traffic impact analysis to be prepared. It was prepared by a registered engineer from the applicant, and it was reviewed by the city's traffic engineering department. So some of the high points of that is that the majority of trips that were generated, that are expected to be generated by the Quick Trip, are what they call pass-by trips. So these are trips that patrons are already on the system. They're already on Olive Avenue. They might be coming from points in Surprise. They might be coming from points further east in Peoria and Glendale. But they're already on the system. They might choose to make an interim stop at Quick Trip and then get back on the system and go to their points west or east. There was also a feeling that a finding that there was not a lot of trips that were expected to be generated that would go on to 95th Avenue, that those trips would primarily be locally generated trips. And there was also, in reviewing the left turn pocket on 95th Avenue that would allow people at the light to go westbound, the TIA found that the length of the throat of that was appropriate to meet those requirements. In terms of looking at overall the cut-through traffic that would be generated, so when you look at patrons that would exit the site, if they're exiting at Olive, of course they have the option at Olive Avenue to exit eastbound on Olive, or they can exit westbound on Olive. Now, admittedly, probably westbound on Olive might be a difficult proposition there. So then those patrons would then be directed to 95th Avenue, where there is a light there. If one of those patrons was choosing to go down 95th Avenue, I do point out that 95th Avenue down to Butler is a half mile. There are 5 speed humps that were placed a few years ago to control traffic speeds, and it does a really good job of doing that. with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Butler Drive also has 3 additional speed humps, and then 99th Avenue would be another half mile that would take you up to Olive, where there is a traffic sign there, or a stop sign there. So the thought was that this would be probably not a likely scenario and a little more circuitous than simply taking the light east or westbound on Olive. So as you know, the appeal, the Planning and Zoning Commission is entrusted to make a decision on the conditional use permit. It is subject to appeal. Any member of the public can file an appeal of the commission's decision. The zoning code in this matter identifies the city council as the appeal body. So as the appeal body, you have the option to affirm or uphold the planning and zoning decision. You can choose to modify, which means add conditions, or you can reverse the commission decision. If you choose to reverse or modify the decision, the council would have to direct the city attorney to prepare written findings describing the basis for the action. So the only basis would be if council concludes the commission and the staff incorrectly applied the CUP decision criteria. And so what the CUP decision criteria is the following 6. Is the use designated as a permissional conditional use permit within the zoning district? Does the use meet the locational and development standards for the zoning district that's in? Is the use consistent with the general plan or any adopted specific plan as it pertains to the site? Is it consistent with the recommendations by all the reviewing city departments? Does it meet and comply with all our codes, ordinances, and standards and guidelines? And will the use be materially detrimental to health, safety, or welfare of the people living in the area, or unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of property? And so some of the things we look at consider things like traffic, parking, ingress and egress. Does it provide a nuisance upon the area? Is there an undue burden or impact on public services in the area? So that's a decision criteria that applies to conditional use permits. In this case, the staff and the commission, by nature of the decision, found that the conditional use permit was compliant with its criteria. So the recommendation this evening is to uphold the Planning and Zoning Commission, subject to the findings described above. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions for Mr. Hawkes? City Attorney, oh, excuse me. Carlo. Yes, please.
You know, that's my district, just to let you know. On Olive Avenue, you get about 8 to 9 gas stations. That's a lot of gas stations from one street from 115th to 83rd. You know, and also you have people that's living there. You know, we talk about the quality of life, right? We get the quality of life up north, which I believe in. I think it's great. We need that. You don't have it in the Pine District. Why? Because they want to put a gas station in. Why do you need another gas station? If anybody can answer me that, and I could agree with them. But I'm against this, number one. Number two, you have 95th Avenue, which is in a big street. I think it's a half a street. Right now, we have speed humps there, and I was involved in getting that. And you're going to have more cars coming down there at night and at daytime, if it's going to be open 24/7. Now, if you look at the records, how many times a year, not just QT, 7-Eleven, Chevron, how many times a year do they get hit? 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. You know, and somebody is going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get killed. And they got all those homes behind there. And what if these guys decide to run and jump over the fence? You know, we've had that happen too. So what I'm saying is that I know once this goes to the P&Z and they okay it, it's going to pass. Don't worry about it. You get it made, believe me. Because everything that goes to the P&Z, this council will pass, even though I vote against it. But you know, the thing is that why can't we put a little shopping center there? You know, they open at 7 in the morning, they close at 5 or 6. You can have hairdressers, you can have barber shop, or anything at all. Fingernail, where you do your fingernails, my wife just loves that. So the point is that what we gotta do is find out, let's stop putting gas stations in. The convenience store is fine, I don't mind that. But why do we need another gas station? And the thing is that we don't. We already got enough gas stations. You can have one right across the street, 7-Eleven. And one of your lawyers told me he wouldn't let his daughter go in there. My thing to him is that, what if your daughter gets stuck at 12 o'clock at night with no gas and she's at a pump? Is he gonna let her get the gas? I'd like to know what his answer would be. I would sure heck let my daughter get the gas. But you know, you have to think of the people. There's nobody here that's going to support my constituents. Nobody. I'm the only one. That's why I'm speaking today. We've got people out there that agrees with me, and believe me, I think this is a bad mistake. It's bad for the community, and all these gases that's going up, we don't know what we're going to do with them all. And I just want to say, it's never going to happen. But I'd like to see the council overturn it, which they won't. Thank you, and God bless you.
Mr. Berg, City Attorney Steve Berg, can you please tell me under what conditions we are able to approve this or disapprove it?
Yes, Mayor, Council, as you recall, this is the third appeal we've had from a conditional use permit issued by the Planning and Zoning Commission in the last few months. The criteria is the same. Chris, could you back up a slide or two to put that back up on the screen? So these are the standards that you have adopted in the zoning ordinance as to what should be in a conditional use permit. Your actions tonight in considering this appeal of this particular permit is, as Chris said, you can affirm, modify, or reject. If you were to either modify or reject, you would need to find that one or more of these criteria were specifically violated in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Council, are there any further questions for Mr. Hawkes? Yes, Mr. Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. So, well, I'm not sure if my question is for you or for Mr. Berg. So have any of these that are on the, up here right now been violated?
Councilmember Patena, it's our recommendation that the conditional use permit meets all these criteria.
Okay.
All right, this is a public hearing. I declare this public hearing open. If there is any members of the public who would like to address this issue, this is the time. And I do have some speaker request forms. We will start with Mr. Jason Wraith. If you would please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak, and the clock will be up on the wall in the corner.
My name is Jason Wraith. I live at 8664 North 95th Avenue, right on the roadway. I hope you were able to go through my neighborhood and visit it, see how the streets are set up going down 95th Avenue and then across Butler. These are not complete streets by the way that it was developed. They are some areas, I mean, they're partially developed. One area is a full-width street just through the way it was developed. 95th Avenue, I would not consider a collector street. It's not a street lined by fences. It's a street lined by houses. We back out of our driveways onto the roadway. One of the things that they have not said that, you know, it meets all of the design criteria. Well, it says up there, whether the use will be materially detrimental to health, safety, welfare of people living, working in the area, or unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of property, e.g., traffic, parking, ingress, egress, nuisance, impact on public service. I don't expect this not to pass, but I would like to see QT work with us in maybe modifying their 95th Avenue access point so that it's left turn only, or their egress point so that it's left turn only, directing people northbound. I deal with people every day, and I know what people plan and expect people to do is not what people always do. And yes, people, we expect them to go northbound. They will eventually figure out there's no left turn arrow here. It's easier to go southbound, then cut across over to 99th Avenue, then go southbound down to Northern, pick up Northern Parkway. That will be more cars that I will be looking for while I'm backing out of my driveway. That will be more cars traveling down a residential street 24 hours a day. That is what we are trying to avoid. That is what I am trying to avoid as a resident in that neighborhood. My daughter is friends with the people that live in the very first house south of this. They are constantly outside playing. I mean, there's a large number of kids at that house. My wife works at the school. She walks to school, Sun Valley, quarter mile down the road from our house. I walk my daughter down there. I walk my dog through that area. The traffic is my concern, and what I would like to see QT work with us to see what we can do to alleviate the possibility of southbound traffic going through the neighborhoods. Because there's already a no-through traffic sign posted there because of the way the neighborhoods have developed. And yes, the speed humps were put there a significant amount of time ago due to the bus. I mean, that was because of buses speeding through the area. One group of people that you would expect not to, it would be the school buses. But that's why they were placed there. So we'd just like QT to work with us to help alleviate traffic concerns for the neighbors, the residents in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker request form is Francesco Morales. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Francesco Morales, 9581 West Alice Avenue. I'm a resident of La Jolla Groves. Councilman Leone, council members, Your Honor, thank you for the time. I wanted to express my opposition to the proposed Quick Trip project, even though it seems pretty inevitable that it will be happening, because I have several concerns, many of which I mentioned at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting weeks ago. I hope to also offer some arguments to the arguments that QT offered then. First of all, the proposed Quick Trip plan will propose a safety issue to our residents, our children, our drivers in and out of the neighborhoods. That cut-through traffic is going to be a safety issue. It's inevitable. People trying to cut off of Olive onto 95th and getting back on Olive, that is my biggest concern for our children and for motorists coming in and out of our neighborhoods. Secondly, it's a gas station, and with any other gas station, there comes a certain amount of blight and a certain amount of crime with any gas station. It's common knowledge. And I understand that we're expecting a modern-looking building with lots of amenities. It's going to be a grand gas station, but it doesn't detract from the fact that it has that stigma. And it doesn't alleviate any of my concerns that it won't just be another gas station. Finally, I'm not against free market economy or friendly competition amongst competitors, but I'm against the saturation of the market. Within 2 miles of our neighborhoods, there are 6 gas stations. And a QT station 0.6 miles away from our neighborhood, or 0.6 miles away from this proposed project. QT argues that there's a psychological barrier that the 101 presents, that residents in our neighborhood won't cross over to get gas at their gas station. I don't buy the argument, because in 2017, everybody has a smartphone and they're going to go to the place that's the closest, and they're going to go to the place that has the cheapest gas. And they can find that all on their smartphone, and the 101 is a moot point. In conclusion, I know this plot is zoned commercial. It's been so since I was in high school, but I know that we can find a place that's better, or something that's better suited for our neighborhood and our neighbors than another gas station. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, sir. I have a speaker request form from Brian Greathouse. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Brian Greathouse, 702 East Osborne Road. I'd like to thank Chris for his very thorough, fine, and very factual and accurate presentation. We have representatives from QT here, and we have our traffic engineer if anybody has questions for them. But otherwise, I'll take these 3 minutes and answer any questions I can. We agree with all staff's findings and all the stipulations that they've stipulated on this case. We request your approval or you to uphold the 4-1 approval from Planning Commission. We were a little surprised this case was appealed, just given the issues at hand. I would characterize these issues as just commercial development issues. They're not really QT or gas station specific, and that's what the conditional use permit's for. The fact that there's going to be more traffic down 95th Avenue, that's true because it's a vacant field today. And if we did a trip generation comparison for our site, which is, as you heard, about a 3-acre site. And if you look at a comparable site that we did down in Avondale, there's a fast food restaurant on it, there's a drive-through bank, and there's a 9,000 square foot retail building on it. And we submitted this traffic comparison to staff. If you look at that comparison, the AM trips from those 3 uses would be 344 trips in 1 peak hour, compared to Quick Trip at 127 trips in 1 peak hour. It's the same way for PM peak, and it's the same way for average daily traffic. So when you're looking at what could be built on the site and what we're proposing, we're actually proposing something that's a lot less than what could be developed on the site. So once again, a lot of the issues are commercial related issues, not Quick Trip related issues. Councilmember Leone, I totally respect your comments and your opinions. A lot of people like Quick Trips. A lot of people travel extra distance to go to Quick Trips. And Planning Commissioner Bill Lewis put it very good. He said that when they were putting the Quick Trip at 67th Avenue in Happy Valley, there was a big uproar there, and they weren't quite certain that they wanted it there. And Bill Lewis said that he was leading that charge a little bit. But he said he's totally turned. He's a fan of Quick Trip, and that they run a very clean, safe store, and we request your approval here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to address this issue? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing. Council, is there any further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to address, if I could, Councilmember Leone's concerns that this council rubber stamps anything that our Planning and Zoning Commission agrees with, and I just don't think that's the case. However, I want to be clear about something. The Planning and Zoning Commission, if you've ever watched a meeting, they vet these type of developments far more than we as a council would ever do. And they ask the tough questions of you and your staff, Chris. And so my comment is that as a council member, I do listen to their recommendations because, as I said earlier, I think they vet them far further and more than we would. Personally, this is the first I've heard anything up here negative about the Quick Trip. I happen to like them. I think they're clean, they're well lighted, they have a large variety of food. I don't believe, based on my conversation with the attorney, I don't think there's going to be a lot of traffic issues. Far fewer than if there was a fast food establishment put there. I honestly believe that the surrounding neighborhood will welcome the Quick Trip and the convenience that it will offer to the neighborhood. So I'm going to vote yes on this. But I want to be real clear. I want to make sure I understand something. Chris, if you said there was nothing wrong with the rules and regulations, regarding the appeal, if we did appeal, or if we did say we want to not approve this, what would happen at that point? What do you have as an attorney as a basis for that removal?
Yeah, Councilmember Patena, as Mr. Hawkes mentioned in his presentation, the code that the council adopted some years ago on this point specifically said that if you were to either modify or reject a P&Z decision on a CUP, you are to direct the city attorney specifically what's the basis for that, so that the city attorney can then put together written findings and bring it back to you. so that we would have it clearly on the record what that standard is, because we're subject to lawsuit if the council's being arbitrary and just doing something for whatever reason it wants on this. This is not, as Mr. Hawkins said at the beginning, the typical legislative decision that you all can make in a zoning case, where the commission's just making a recommendation for you to consider and decide what you think is the best, policy for the city generally. This is a specific act that has been appealed from a commission final decision, and thus you're severely constrained on how you can do it. It doesn't mean you can't. If you could find a legitimate basis for, under one of those criteria, for finding that the commission got it wrong, you have the ability to do that. But it's a tough standard, and you would have to be able to verbalize it and explain it well enough that I could put together written findings to justify it.
I just think our options are limited, very limited here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilmember Leone?
Yes, thank you. I just want to kind of mention to you that I'm sure you know there's two gas stations kitty corner from each other, number one. Number two, you get a school way down on the other end. Now, a lot of kids walk to school, and what if they're going to get a car that's driving pretty fast that has to get his gas before it gets late for work? These are the things you got to think of. Not just because it's a money-making deal. We can put anything in there and make money. Don't have to be a gas station. But I got my gas yesterday. I got 50 cents off. Why don't you get Quick Trip to get a 10 cents off of fries? You can make money that way. But anyway, this is what I'm talking about. And I think we just have too many gas stations. I know you get your team there, and I don't blame you. I'd volunteer if I was in your shoes. But, I just think that it's a shame that you have to open another gas station, one of the many, many, many more things that you can open and make money with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Binsbacher?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the residents for coming out this evening and for your thoughtful comments about building this Quick Trip. I want to say that I did visit your neighborhood. I went several different times at different times of the day and in the evening to see the traffic and get a feel for 95th Avenue and the speed bumps and the different routes. And I can't find where the project does not meet the requirements. And then I was thinking about just the left turn only coming out onto 95th Avenue. And I truly believe that would be detrimental to the neighborhood down 95th Avenue, because a lot of people are going to want to turn right after using that gas station to go home. So I can't even really justify necessarily where making that amendment to this would make sense. But again, I appreciate your comments, but I just wanted you to know that I did go down and visit it. And especially in the evenings when I went, it was really crowded down there at the Circle K. It's a busy intersection. And, I don't see where it doesn't meet the requirements, and I'm going to have to support the project as well.
Any further comments? All right. This is a request to consider an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision on March 16th, 2017 to approve a conditional use permit for a proposed Quick Trip to be located at the southwest corner of 95th Avenue and Olive. This is not a zoning case. This is the possible action that we have is to affirm, reverse, or modify the P&Z's decision, and that would include the reasons, the limited reasons that we had on the presentation prior to this. So with that, do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Thank you. Council, please vote. And it passes 6-1 with Councilmember Leone dissenting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to item 16R, redistricting. This is discussion and possible action to adopt a final redistricting map to be effective with the City Council election of 2018 and direct staff to take such actions necessary to implement the selected map. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor Carlett. This is the concluding step in the process that was begun some months ago. Deputy City Manager Julie Ehrendahl is the leader of our staff team and has also assembled, as you know, some very skilled consultants that have brought a variety of disciplines to this process, and also some appropriate technology that I think has been a step above what the city has done in the past. I think the process has gone smoothly, but we are now at the point where it's time to choose a map. There are 5 of them, as you know, and they're along the side. I'll turn it over to Julie for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Before I get started, I would like to make the announcement that if anyone needs Spanish language services, we have Denarius with us, who is an interpreter, so please just get with her if you do require those services. In addition, I would like to recognize the team that's been working on this project since last fall. I may be the one sitting at this table, but I'm certainly not the one who's been everyone's been working so hard on this project, and we've had a lot of fun too. So I would like to recognize Research Advisory Services. We have Tony and Eddie Sissons with us. And then we also have Mary O'Grady, who has been the legal power on the team. In addition to our internal team, which included Steve Berg, Rhonda Jereminski, Dawn Prince, Jen Stein, Tim Smothers, and Beth Ollinger from my department. So very much appreciate everyone's hard work on this project. Now I'm going to go through a presentation. Because this is expected to be the final time I'm before you on this topic, we want to have a complete record. So I am going to go all the way back through the presentation. By now, most of you can probably give this presentation, but we would, again, like to have a complete record. So when we talk about redistricting, the City of Peoria is required to adjust district boundaries to provide equal population after each decennial census and after each mid-decennial census. And of course, we conducted a mid-decade census in 2015. If we look at a snapshot of the city's population history, back in 1990, we had less than 51,000 residents. In our 2010 census, we had 154,000 residents. And with our special mid-decade census, we were counted at 161,563. On the screen right now is the current council map that was adopted after the 2010 census. When we look at the population count that we received from the special mid-decade census, this graph breaks that down by district. And again, I'd like to highlight that the growth was most significant in the Mesquite district, who saw the district rise by nearly 7,000 residents. And so when we go to redistrict the city into 6 equal districts, we were looking at approximately 27,000 residents per district. There's legal criteria that we had to follow in going through this process, and that is that the districts must have substantially equal population, thus the reason we're going through this exercise, but also to protect minority voting rights pursuant to the Voting Rights Act. And the districts have to be contiguous, which means you can walk from one portion of the district to the other without leaving the district. In addition, to help measure the maps that we received, Council adopted additional criteria. And those included that districts should be compact, as compactedness reinforces the ability of residents to relate to each other and their elected representatives, to follow visible or man-made boundaries such as mountains, rivers, and roads, to not contain more than one master-planned, age-restricted community in order to best represent all residents, to preserve communities of interest, and should not unnecessarily divide neighborhoods that have similar socioeconomic, lifestyle, or political interests, and finally, to strive for continuity in office to minimize voter disruption. We utilized 2 phases of public engagement throughout this process, and the first phase was to go out and educate our residents on what we were doing and why, and to ask for their assistance in the creation of maps to be considered by City Council. We also had an active website. We held open houses, attended community meetings. We utilized traditional and social media, and as Mr. Swenson mentioned, for the first time utilized an online mapping application that allowed our residents from home to play within the system and create and submit their own maps. During the first round of public engagement, we received 4 public comments on communities of interest, but we also received 39 maps submitted through the online portal. 17 of those did meet all of the legal and council adopted criteria. In order to narrow that field to the 5 that we ultimately recommended as finalists, because so many were similar in appearance, we looked for variety in order to provide the citizens and council with options in moving forward for a final map. So these are, again, a brief snapshot of the 5 maps that we presented as a staff redistricting committee to City Council as 5 finalists. Again, all of these maps met the legal and council adopted criteria to be considered. I do have individual maps I can bring up on the screen if council would like to see them in more detail, and we do have the boards that we also brought here in the room. So we took these 5 finalist maps and went out into a second round of public engagement, again utilizing a website, open houses, traditional and social media, and we essentially sought feedback on each finalist map. Now keep in mind this was not asking our residents to vote on a map. We asked them to provide us with comments on what they liked, disliked, or any general comments they had on each map. We received 11 public input forms, and those are included in your packets in addition to a summary of all comments received for each map. So at this point in the process, tonight's action is for council to review all of the public input received and to consider final selection of a map. And I'll say one more time, all finalist maps meet the legal and council adopted criteria. This is a vote that is a typical council vote. There are no special rules, no roll call, no special supermajority. It is a simple majority vote of council. And again, this is going to be effective for the council elections in 2018, and they would then become effective when council takes office in January of 19. The timeline, this is just a recap of where we've been. The redistricting committee started last fall. We began our first phase public process in January and February. Second phase occurred in April, and so pleased to be before you tonight on time and a little ahead of time on this project. So with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions for Ms. Arundel? All right, I have a speaker request form from Ms. Joan Evans. If you would please make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, Joan Evans, 7636 West Lachlan Court in the Willow District. Mayor and council, staff, consultants who have worked hard on this as well. This is a difficult thing to do, and first of all, I want to say I so appreciate all the things the city of Peoria is doing, what a wonderful city it is, and how things are. But sometimes when we're the one coming up, it's because we have a concern, and we don't come up and say all the wonderful things. So wonderful things, everybody first. And second of all, though, the redistricting map has 2 that actually do go against one of those criteria, and that is that Tierra Buena is a street that divides a neighborhood. The houses face each other. On the 4th of July, the children have a parade down Tierra Buena, kids from both sides. Any morning, you might see people walking back and forth across Tierra Buena with their coffee cup. In the evening, you might see adult beverages in their hands. But it is a community that goes across Tierra Buena. And number 31 and 35 do the same thing to that neighborhood that was done in the past. And that was done for political reasons, not fair, wise choices. It was done for political reasons. I like the fact that we have people here who are making decisions for people, making decisions for our wonderful city, not based on what they personally want, but what is best for the city and is best for the citizens and for their representation. And I really appreciate that, because I really feel that numbers 31 and 35 do not follow your guidelines that you put up to begin with. And as the city grows, it will continue to grow north. And as it continues to grow north, those districts that in 31 and 35 have been plopped over by my neighborhood will no longer be in that area. So we might as well try and have as much consistency going forward, because we do have an opportunity to make the right choice and not have gerrymandered districts this time. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you. I know how hard your job is, and thank you so much for all you do for us.
Thank you. Okay, Council, are there any comments? Councilmember Hunt?
Do both 31 and 35 divide Tierra Buena?
Can you put those
Joan?
maps up on the,
Yes.
can you put the maps up on the?
Yeah, he's working to get those
Oh.
up. I think it'll just take a moment to get them up on the
Okay.
screen. We'll bring them up one at a time, and we'll start with 31.
She mentioned 31, but I don't know if she mentioned 35.
So I believe that what we're talking about is the road. Is this a pointer by chance? All right. It's the breaking line, I believe, between the Palo Verde district in blue and the district in yellow, and I believe it's the road that's going up. It's hard to do that, a pointer, I apologize. Can you better describe? I'm not sure how to describe.
Can you make it larger? How about that?
Can you zoom in?
There we go.
Yes, okay, perfect.
Now
I'm sorry, thank
Now
you.
go down. It's just south of Bell Road there.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you look to the east of the 101 and 83rd Avenue, I believe that's the break that we're talking about that goes up through that area behind the sports complex, or south of the sports complex there.
Is that where Tierra Buena is?
I believe that's the road, the name of the road that's cutting through.
Okay, so does everyone see that?
Right, you see it right here?
Yeah,
That's the road that we're talking about.
okay.
And if you bring up map 35, you'll see that the same road is split between two districts. It's just two different districts. So this map is splitting on that same corridor, but between the Willow District and the Palo Verde District.
So it's right here again.
But it's not Tierra Buena this time?
No, it's the same street, it's just a different district that it's.
It's still split, but it's two different districts that would be split through. Part would be in Willow, and in one of them, part would be in,
So this and this map is in Willow, and then in the other map, it has this exact same section in the in Ironwood.
okay, well, this is crazy. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So do we understand where Tierra Tierra Buena is now? All right.
Sort of.
So, council, I'm going to open this to discussion here. I would like to know your comments on the various maps. Yes, Councilmember Finn.
I'll start, what the heck. My first comment on the various maps is I think people put a lot of effort into these, and there was a lot of thought process that went in. I very much support the people that made comments. And I can honestly say, I do want to absolutely say that there are, in my mind, there are three maps on here that make sense. And when you look at the criteria of keeping boundaries in place and not unnecessarily splitting up neighborhoods, that was a very, very tall task to try and keep all of that together. And I don't think any one of them is absolutely perfect, unfortunately. So I've said before, and I don't mind saying again, I like map 4. I think it's something that is extremely clean for the public to see. It puts more emphasis on major roads and barriers, but it also splits a neighborhood that there was some concern about, and I completely understand that. So I'm not sure how we're going to kind of walk through this process. I just wanted to basically say there's probably a pretty good chance that, this is almost like a schoolyard pick. Just because, you didn't pick the person on your first team, they end up on your team and you're still supportive of that person. It's just everybody's going to have a 1, 2, and a 3, and it's going to come down to who, which ones had the most number 1s on it. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, I see 3 that are very viable. There are concerns with every one of them, but I think there are 3 that would absolutely, without question, serve our citizens and make sense to them when we adopt one of them tonight.
So what were the other 2, Mike?
The other 2 for me were 38 and 31. Like I said, not.
Are you saying those are the ones you like?
Those are the
38
ones
and
that I'm throwing that out there,
Okay.
that those are 3 that I'm not comfortable with the other 2. I don't think it makes sense, really.
4, 38, and 31. Okay,
Well, now, 4, 38, and 31, the other 2 I'm not
got it.
comfortable with.
Okay,
And again, I like 4, I just know that it splits a neighborhood, and I understand that's a concern.
Which neighborhood? Is that the West Wing?
Yes.
Could you put it map 4?
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Yes, Vice Mayor
That's why we're
Edwards.
here.
Because not only does it split Miss Evans' neighborhood, but it splits the whole division of Fletcher Heights in half between north and south, and so I don't support
4
map
does.
number 4.
Okay, the 4, okay.
Yeah,
No, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like I said, everybody's got an opinion on this.
yeah.
All right,
I'm sorry, Jefferson.
2 no's on 4. Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. Right now, I support map 31, and I'll tell you why. If you remember last time that this process occurred, it was really messed up, and I heard and I read article after article in the paper about why did we even bother putting maps out to our community when we didn't listen to them, and we just simply did what we felt like we should do as a council, and I think that's wrong, and we need to keep this as transparent as we can. And when I read the public input on Plan 31, everything on the likes and the dislikes is all positive to me, and I think it's important that we listen to our citizens and we listen to the public, and we let them know that the information that they gave us is important to us, and so that's why I'm supporting map 31.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councilmember Binsbacher?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I came down to 2 maps, and that makes sense to me, and that was 31 and 38. But again, to support, I think what we've all agreed on here is that, it's not about us individually, what we want by any stretch of the imagination. It's about, the people and what they want and what positions us to be able to serve them in the most effective way. And so I want to avoid splitting neighborhoods wherever we can. I'm afraid that with any one of these maps, though I like I said, immediately went to 2, that's going to happen. So I'm back and forth, probably leaning a little more based on the comments that have been submitted with 31, but I would ask other council members if there's a specific reason why someone wouldn't support 38. There's something specific about that.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Edwards? Did you want to speak?
No, that was before.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
You clear that. Okay, I will say that one of the reasons that 38 gave me pause is because it divides the community of Desert Harbor. For some reason, it goes down one street and leaves that open to the Ironwood district, and the rest of that community goes to Palo Verde. Councilmember Finn?
Yeah, that is kind of a strange little piece there. I won't disagree with that. I think, there's a couple of them up here, and I would probably ask what those feelings are for on 31. I think there's another section up in the Mesquite that has a little trailer to it. It might not be as significant as the Desert Harbor one. Would you mind pulling that up there?
31?
Nah, it's over on the right-hand side, just north of Pinnacle Peak. You've got it kind of split there. Those are the things that I was trying to obviously avoid when we did this. And I don't know how significant that is. I'm not as familiar with this neighborhood. Right here where it splits,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Okay, where that, yeah.
I guess the public can't really see where I'm pointing at my map, can they? I'm sorry. So that is Pinnacle Peak. You could see that there's a green and a brown up there towards the top. And like I said, I don't know the significance of that particular location, as well as you guys probably do representing that area. So
There are very small amount of homes in there, and one retail store, store on the corner of Pinnacle Peak and 91st, right next to the county island.
I think on most of these, there are some little odd trailers there that you kind of look at and say, 2 years from now, when somebody wasn't involved in this, you're going to look at that and scratch their head and say, how the heck did that happen?
I don't think those are the same community, are they? Who's?
You're talking about this?
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about that
This is
goes
all
right down there.
This is gated communities here. You're talking 91st this is where that new development was just approved.
Okay, well, whose district is this?
This is currently mine.
Okay. Is that out of place? Is that something that is
It's out of place the
uncomfortable?
way it is. It's out of place there, yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's a bad thing.
What are you
Is that
guys
what we're trying
talking
to
about?
determine
It's
here?
not as bad as I would.
That's right here.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Desert Harbor. It's not
Okay.
as bad
So
as
what's it
Tiffany.
dividing?
No, we're just talking, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's
Talking
not
about the
very
fact that
bad.
it's still a little-
And that, what
each
map are
one
we
of these
on?
has
Can
a
you
little-
has a
reduce
little-
it again?
a
Are we on
little-
31?
String.
You want to see the whole map, 31?
I just want to know what number we're on. 31, okay. So that one's
30,
okay
31 makes, to me, the most sense for Willow District. Willow is just ridiculously gerrymandered on all the others. I just really spread out long and with little tails everywhere. Carlo can speak for himself on Pine, but I don't have heartburn over any of the maps that, as they concern Acacia. I'm fine, it's pretty much a block, and obviously it's Acacia and Pine that have the most movement between the maps. I don't think Palo Verde, don't think we have any at all, to tell you the truth. I think we're Cactus. Oh, we do on 25, we have some. But it's Willow that I would be the most concerned about as far as having little hubs here and there. So I think 31 looks the best on that. And I'd like to say on splitting the neighborhood, I get what you're saying, but those people are still going to walk across the street with either coffee or adult beverages. It's not going to break up friendships. They're not clans, that are going to take fire at each other if they're in different districts. And I understand, because I have always had people that the dividing line has been down a street. And it's most confusing for me, probably, as the council person, to know whether I'm supposed to serve the people on that side of the street or not. But I don't think, Joan, as far as it being destructive to the friendships or the quality of the neighborhood, you didn't mean that, okay. But I don't think it would be destructive to the quality of the neighborhood. But I really don't like some of these others where Willow has a little clump down below Bell Road and a little clump in.
I don't think we're even talking about those two.
Okay,
So
but they're all being considered.
431, okay.
So what are the ones we're talking about then? 31 and what?
I am hearing that 25 and 35 are not in consideration at this point. Do I have that correct?
Okay, what's wrong with 25, just so I know?
25 is what you were talking about Willow,
Yeah, it does that to Willow.
and so is 35.
Right.
They're very similar to what we have now.
So those are not being considered, okay.
Well, they can be, but I'm hearing right
Okay,
now
no,
that,
we have to narrow it down, so might as well.
okay, are you done? Okay, Councilmember Bensbacher.
I was just going to say, just to reiterate, I don't believe that number 4 is an option.
Okay, so now we're talking about 38 and 31. Okay. Now 38, we have heard from a citizen, and it is also the one that divides Desert Harbor in just a very strange way. Yes, Councilmember Finn?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna, to kind of help things along a little bit, if the council in general is feeling that we are down to 2, it would probably, at least in my opinion, respectfully, if you want to call for a motion, run them through, and I think that, at least for me, you know, if my vote is a yes or a no, I support 100% this process, the last 2 maps that we are with, and have the utmost respect for however it goes. So that would be my recommendation if we're down to 2.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
So with that being said, I'll request a motion for 31.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Plan 31. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Council, please vote on approving Plan 31. And it passes with Councilmember Finn and Councilmember Leone dissenting. And redistricting is complete. Thank you for all your work on that.
And nice job, council. Well done.
Right. We will now move on to item 17R, Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 2018 to 2027.
Thank you, Mayor Carlett. And as Katie is coming down, let me just commend you on the process you just went through. That was, something like that is always difficult, and you just rose to the occasion and went through very good deliberation and achieved an outcome that works for the community.
Thank you.
This is a step on our capital improvement budget, and Katie Gregory, our budget director, will make the presentation on this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am actually bringing forward 2 items for your consideration and adoption. The first is the 10-year capital improvement program, and the second is the fiscal year 2018 tentative budget. These are the first 2 steps in a series of steps for completing the formal fiscal year 2018 budget process. As you recall, the city manager's recommended budget was presented to council on March 21st, and council reviewed the budget during the study sessions on March 29th and 30th. And after that review, the council went ahead and directed us to begin the formal process of adopting the budget. So tonight we're going to start with the CIP, and the CIP is a 10-year balanced plan that addresses projects that are needed or will be needed across a broad spectrum of infrastructure types. It is a dynamic program in which each year a great deal of effort is put in updating the plan to ensure not only that critical needs are being met, but also that the cost, scope, and timing of all the projects are coordinated throughout the plan. Putting together a 10-year plan is a year-round process. It is most involved in September, when staff estimates and submits projects, through March, when the city manager submits a recommended budget to council. City staff identify and prioritize projects. They estimate project costs, determine the available resources, balance those requests within those available resources, and ultimately submit a recommended program to City Council for its consideration. One key consideration in this process is the city's ability to fund the ongoing operations and maintenance costs associated with each project. As such, our projected operating impacts are incorporated into our 5-year forecast each year. And not only does the capital program provide a schedule of the planned improvements, it also identifies the funding sources for the projects over the entire 10-year plan. And tonight we're asking council to approve and adopt the proposed fiscal year 2018 through fiscal year 2027 capital improvement plan. Some key themes went into developing this year's program, and they included incorporating projects that address your council priority goals, having key investments into preserving and maintaining our existing infrastructure, delivering a full project that is well coordinated, meets our development standards, and minimizes disruptions to our citizens, and planning for and incorporating the ongoing operations and maintenance of the projects. Peoria's plan addresses projects that are needed over a number of different category types. You can see them listed up here. As you would expect, the largest categories for improvements are in the areas of transportation and streets, water, and wastewater. And the city is also making significant investments, as you can see on here, in areas such as park, drainage improvements, and economic development. As mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a balanced plan, and that's because we've identified funding sources that are based on reliable revenues to support both the one-time capital investments as well as all the ongoing operating costs for every project in the 10-year program. The 10-year capital improvement program totals $660 million, and as you can see, there are multiple funding sources that support this plan. The city's operating funds, which include the use of one-time fund balance to support targeted improvements in the community, which include projects like street maintenance, community works projects, and the repair and replacement of park amenities. Development impact fees are also used to finance growth-related projects. And as you can see, we continue to utilize GO bonds for a significant portion of the general government projects, and GO bonds are paid for through the city's secondary property tax. Revenue bonds support many of our city's utility projects, and of course, the transportation sales tax funds a number of important street and transit-related programs. Of course, following on the heels of our unsuccessful bid with Prop 400, we spent considerable amount of time reprioritizing projects and evaluating the available funding sources to ensure that we addressed council's highest priority needs. This program does not include projects that were identified in that initiative, as we just don't have the capacity to do that. However, we were able to fund a number of important projects, such as the construction of Northern Community Park and ensure that we were able to complete the full Phase 1 of Northern Community Park, the expansion of the Pyramid Peak Water Treatment Facility, projects to facilitate the Innovation and Technology Center at P83, and numerous transportation projects that address traffic and drainage needs throughout the city. Tonight, we're asking the council to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2018 through fiscal year 2027 capital plan. And then again, on May 16th, we'll be asking council to approve the first year of the capital improvement plan as part of the overall fiscal year 18 adopted budget. And that will be followed by the property tax adoption in June. With that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Gregory? The capital improvement program? We had a very great presentation when that was presented to us, so I think we have all the information we need then. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
All right, council, please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move on to item 18R, adoption of tentative budget.
And Katie will make this presentation as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the tentative budget approval. As you're aware, the tentative budget sets the maximum appropriation amount for the whole fiscal year 2018. Council's 24-month policy goals are where help departments align their operational strategies and develop programs and services that are in support of your goals and formulate the resource requirement that achieves these goals. Then, following that, we have two processes that we go through the fiscal year, or through the budget process, which is an operating process, or operating budget and a capital budget. The operating budget is what really supports our day-to-day operations. When you hear the word operating, that's what we're talking about, and that's largely supported through taxes, fees, and rates. On the capital side, those are our large one-time projects, and that has a separate separate process that we just discussed, and that's using primarily supported through bonds, impact fees, and rates. I always do that, hit the wrong one. Some of the framework that's established in the city's principles of sound financial management provide guidance related to budget development, and they include updating the 5-year long-range forecast that incorporates both revenue and expenditure estimates for all of the city's major operating funds. It includes all revenues that are anticipated to be sustainable or recurring over the 5-year forecast and the known or anticipated ongoing expenditure requirements. And making sure we've met all of our reserve requirements and only applying the balance above reserves to one-time uses in subsequent budget years. This is the total recommended budget. You can see here that we're recommending a budget of $590 million for fiscal year 2018. It's approximately 19% over fiscal year 2017. And this is primarily due to our capital improvement program, which is a significant portion of this. The operating piece is only growing about 3%, but the capital improvement program grew significantly, primarily because of carryover funds, as well as some additional new projects such as the Innovation and Technology Center. The budget is broken down into 4 categories. The total operating budget in green, or I don't know what color this is. It's approximately 47% of the total of $277 million. A little more than half of that is the city's general fund at $146 million. The capital budget totals $212 million, or about 36% of the total, and the other categories of debt and contingency are at $46 and $55 million, respectively. And as a reminder, when we budget contingency appropriation, we do that in various funds to give us the budget authority to spend on any unplanned, unforeseen items, emergencies, or perhaps even mid-year adjustments that need to be made, and only the council has the authority to approve the use of those contingency funds. The budget contemplates 1,204 FTE, and 12 of which are new positions. These include 6 public safety positions, which are three police officers, 2 police service officers, and a victim's assistant. We also have 3 solid waste operators included in this budget, as well as a safety administrator, an inventory control storekeeper, and the new arts and culture coordinator, which will be tasked with expanding arts program and partnerships throughout the city. Some important takeaways of the budget as recommended is that it's a balanced budget that once again keeps our financial principles intact and maintains all of our services. There are no changes in the city's sales tax rate or the property tax rates for fiscal year 2018. Staff is recommending a 2-year rate adjustment for the city's water and wastewater utility rates. And for residential solid waste, it is a 1-year rate adjustment that's being recommended. And the first year of those adjustments has been incorporated into the fiscal year 2018 recommended budget. There are no increases in the city's commercial solid waste rate. And overall, this budget ensures that we address all the important organizational objectives such as customer service, public safety, economic development, and maintaining quality services for our citizens. So you just approved the capital improvement plan, and this request now is for council to approve the tentative budget adoption setting the maximum appropriation limit for fiscal year 2018.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Katie, if you wouldn't mind, could you explain to us about the enterprise funds?
Sure.
And the water and wastewater rates?
Yes. Enterprise funds are basically, in the city of Peoria, are primarily our utility funds, which includes water, wastewater, and solid waste. These are funds that are run more like a business in the sense that those funds are segregated and separated out. We don't cross We don't use any of those funds. They're primarily supported through rates that people pay on their water bills and their solid waste bills. So all those revenues stay in one place, and we don't use any of those revenues to support any general fund activities or anything outside of the purpose for which they were collected for.
Okay, good. Thank you. That helps. All right. Council, any questions? Do I have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Council, please vote. And it passes unanimously. That is the adoption of the tentative budget. Thank you so much. All right, we will now move on to the Vistancia Community Facilities District Board meeting. This is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the minutes from the January 10th, 2017 board meeting and the proposed fiscal year 2018 budget and tax levy. These will be passed in one motion unless a board member requests that an item be removed from consent. Board, is there any items to be removed from consent? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Board, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now move on to the Vistancia West Community Facilities District Board meeting. Consent agenda consists of the minutes from the February 21st, 2017 board meeting, as well as the proposed fiscal year 2018 budget and tax levy. Board members, are there any items to be removed from consent? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, board, please vote. And it passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is call to the public on non-agenda items, and I do have some speaker request forms. We will start with Mr. Joe Kluwer. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joe Kluwer. I live at 30678 North 129th Avenue in Peoria. I also represent a group of citizens called Citizens for Peoria. We are concerned, obviously, about issues relative to city government and quality of life. One of the issues that we have taken interest in is public safety, particularly the police, and particularly their staffing levels. I've met with most of the council with regard to that issue. One of the other issues that has kind of come to the surface is the issue of support staff, civilian support staff. The shortages are also quite high in that area, particularly dispatch. I spoke to at least one of them. They expressed some frustration about the level of staffing there. They're constantly asked to work overtime. It's even very difficult to take a day off sick without getting the 3rd degree. According to the roster that I obtained through public records request, there's 7 vacancies and 1 supervisor vacancy in the dispatch area. That amounts to about a 30% staffing decrease or vacancy rate. So that's obviously an issue that needs to be addressed, as well as the sworn side of the House with regard to staffing levels. I'd like to just say that, you know, when these staffing levels occur, it's a failure on our part. When these FTEs, when these full-time positions are determined, they're not just haphazardly. It is determined that that is the service level that we need to provide the service to the city. When that doesn't happen, we fail. We fail as a community. And we should make a concerted effort to make sure that we get that staffing levels hired at full staff at all times, because it creates undue stress to the employees. And we do have great employees, there's no doubt. I watched here today some employees receive an award for Quality of Life Initiative on behalf of the citizens, and I think that's wonderful. But I also think that we as the community, as citizens, as the council, as the department head, should be equally as concerned about their quality of life. And we fail to hire at the full staffing levels. We put an undue burden on those individuals and their quality of life as it relates to excess overtime, workloads and that sort of thing. So I think we need to really make that a concerted effort, particularly in the police department, but across the city. Those are minimum levels that this council, through their budget approval, has set as being needed to deliver the service that the citizens expect. And when we don't do that, it essentially equates to a diminishment of service to the community. And I thank you for your time and your guys' commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I have a request to speak from Eric McMorrow. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Eric McMorrow, and the address is 11310 North 80th Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm the Vice President of AFSCME Local 3282, serving the public safety workers of Peoria. The season of Park Fest has concluded until the temperatures cool back down. And on behalf of the workers who attended these events, I would like to say thank you to the management staff for providing us with the equipment and the staff hours to go to Park Fest events here in Peoria, where we provided information about and exhibited city equipment to the citizens in each neighborhood, you guys' neighborhoods. We also had tables set up to educate the citizens about services offered by the city, such as recycling, bulk trash pickup, hazardous waste pickup, graffiti removal, code enforcement, and traffic signal techs. We received a lot of feedback from the attendees who came over to the exhibits, and we noticed a couple of trends in the comments. How well kept, clean, and well maintained the equipment is, and that is purchased with their tax dollars, and how knowledgeable and polite the public safety workers were that operate that equipment whenever they were encountered both at ParkFest and in their neighborhoods. Some citizens even knew and recognized their garbage collection drivers. We knew that the heavy equipment would be a hit with the kids, and it turns out the parents too. But what I really enjoyed was seeing the young kids who wanted to learn more about recycling only after taking their picture with the garbage truck, which, by the way, was the runaway favorite of all the vehicles. A couple of children showed more interest than usual. One asked for additional swag bags full of materials about recycling because they were having recycling parties with their neighborhood friends and wanted to share them at their party. Another child hung around with our team for the entire event, going from truck to truck, asking what every knob, handle, and gauge was, expressing interest in working for the city of Peoria. In closing, I would like to thank Bill Moss and his staff for assisting us, Jack Stroud for allowing code enforcement participation, John Sefton for providing the graffiti removal technician, Janet Ramsey for providing a large portion of the equipment, Jody Latimer for providing the informational handouts, the swag bags, and the solid waste department for providing the star of the show, the garbage truck. We hope to be able to expand our public outreach next season to educate our citizens on what the public safety workers at the city of Peoria do, from keeping the drinking water safe to ensuring traffic signals keep working. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. And I thought I had one more. I do. Cassidy Gabroso. Gatrost. Cassidy, would you please state your name and address for the record? You have 3 minutes.
My name's Cassidy Gatrist, 8940 West Olive Avenue, Unit Number 6, Peoria, Arizona, 85345. Good evening, Mayor Kathy Carlett, members of the council, and members in the community. As the City of Peoria's Youth Advisory Board member, I would like to say thank you to the mayor, the council, the City of Peoria's staff, and the Peoria Unified School District for allowing our board to be a part of the Park Fest events, Youth Government Day at the Peoria Sports Complex, the Trail Cleanup, Planet Palooza, the AMF Bowling Alley team for team building, Scotland Yard Park, and many more events here in the city. All of these events were amazing, and it gave the board the opportunity to volunteer and obtain community service hours, the ability to network, and to have a great time. Also, to all the City of Peoria staff, public safety, first responders, volunteers, and the Peoria Unified School District who took the time and effort into putting together these wonderful events for our community, families, and youth to enjoy. Thank you to all.
Thank you. All right, I have no more requests to speak, so we will move on to call to the public for, nope, we've done that. Okay, so we now are moving on to reports from City Manager. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor Carl. Just one report this evening, and that's what we do at the first meeting of each month, and that's the upcoming events video. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. You know, those programs really are incredible for our citizens. Where else can you learn to swim for $25? It's an amazing bargain. We will now move on to reports from the City Council, and we'll start with Youth Council Liaison Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the winners of the City Manager's Excellence Awards. You all just do an amazing job. All of the city staff. I think everyone on the city staff deserves an award, honestly. You guys all do outstanding jobs. I also would like to recognize how honored I am to have been a part, or to been able to watch the process of the budget for the fiscal year of 2018. I learned so much by watching this just happen, just how much work goes into it and how much thought goes into it. And also last Saturday on the 29th, I attended the Willow Park Fest, where we watched Zootopia in the park, and that was so great to see so many residents out there enjoying such a beautiful night in one of our wonderful parks. I'd also like to encourage citizens to sign up for swim lessons and to take advantage of open swim at the pool. It's so amazing. It's just amazing that our city has so many public pools and that we offer at such a low price to teach children how to swim and teach about water safety. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to congratulate all of the older Americans that were recognized today. They continue to be contributing members of our society. They're working longer, they're volunteering, they're involved in their community. We use older Americans for advice. Chances are, whatever the situation is you're asking them, they've probably lived it, so I'm sure their advice is good advice. Congratulations to all the City Manager Award winners. I've said for years that our city staff is the best staff in the valley, and I remain committed to that statement. I'm sure that more people could have been selected as award winners because they do such an outstanding job making sure that our citizens are taken care of. So congratulations to all of them, and congratulations to all our staff for the hard work that you do. Today, this council adopted our tentative budget and a CIP budget.
CIP.
Budget was a great presentation. It was easy to understand, and I appreciated all the efforts to make it such an easy process again this year. So thank you, Carl, for making sure that got done. You know, we have a $590 million budget. That's a lot of money, and moving that money around is sometimes very difficult to do, but they make it seem very, very easy. I want to address Eric's comments. I had Eric at our Park Fest. AFSCME was there, and it's everything he said is true. The kids enjoy the equipment. The equipment was clean and looked great. People were there and they were engaged in seeing what it was all about. And I just want Eric to know that any Park Fest that I ever have, AFSCME is certainly, I want them to be part of it. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Binsbacher.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, want to congratulate the amazing adults that were here tonight. They are a big part of every community, and we're so grateful for their work. I also want to congratulate staff, all of the award recipients. It's wonderful to see. I especially enjoyed the social time, having dinner and getting to meet families, and there are so many employees. It's just hard to believe how many we don't know and don't get to talk to. And so it's nice to be able to do that. But again, all of our staff, we truly do have the cream of the crop here in Peoria. I'm so proud of everyone on so many levels, from budget to community meetings. We're doing some really great work. I want to touch on a couple of things, and I know it's getting late. The Youth Government Day was fantastic at the sports complex. Over 300 kids interested in learning about how to become great leaders, the future of our city, of our country. It was wonderful to see that energy. SWAG was another event at the sports complex, and I was not able to be there, but my family was, and my daughter's an up and coming, and just loved it. And PD does a great job with that, and just want to see that continue and grow, and we really do support those activities, all part of great community policing and engagement all around. It's wonderful. We had, I went to Pleasant Valley's HOA meeting, and we're talking about having the heavy equipment there in our city-sponsored events. But the HOAs are now reaching out in our district, in the Mesquite district, wanting us to participate in their events as well. And they had a ribbon cutting, sharing their new playground equipment, just unbelievable accomplishment for that HOA, but also met with another community association in another part of the district, wanting to know what the city could bring value to their annual event. They're calling it a national night out and want to focus on safety and what the city's doing to improve the quality of life. And so, of course, they're asking for PD, they're asking for fire, but we suggested to them about having the heavy equipment there and what goes into handling all of that and the recycling process and being able to see that equipment up close and talk to the operators. They absolutely loved it. So there is more to come for sure, and they invite it. Also, I want to thank Lisa Estrada and all of the team, community services and staff across the board, different departments there pulling off that party for the planet, Planet Palooza. The Mesquite District, West Wing in particular, was so proud to have that event there and just love the message about managing our city responsibly, efficiently, the focus on sustainability, the music, all the activities for the kids. They loved it. Thank you for all your hard work. You really have started a movement there with that event and your characters and everything. It's really special. A couple of weeks ago or last week, there was a community meeting, and one of quite a few that happened in the Mesquite District. There seems to be stuff going on all the time, but particularly the 67th Avenue and Hatfield area, I met those folks about a year and a half ago having some drainage issues, and there's a lot of history that goes into that, but we met. It was very contentious, frustrated people. Staff came in and supported Andy and his team, and Susan and Public Works, and had individual meetings, went into community meetings, and they were some tough situations. And I felt, gearing up to go into that last meeting, we had turned a corner in such a big way. And the welcome was so positive, and they were so pleased that they could reach out to their city and present a problem, and we started talking and breaking down barriers. We're coming up with solutions. The feedback was really amazing. And one of the things that really resonated with me that I want to share is how the community is now working together. They were at odds with each other because of different things going on, and again, there's a lot of history there, but they're starting to work together and support each other and help each other and have conversation about the future of that neighborhood. Again, that's a neighborhood that may not be in my district moving forward. It doesn't look like it will be, but that's okay, because it took everyone to help them, and it will take more effort to see it through, but it's just wonderful to see the evolution of what's happening there. So thank you, Andy Granger, and all of your team that supported that effort and will continue to support that effort, regardless of what district they're in. And finally, a general plan meeting that I attended last week. Really interesting stuff. Chris Hawkes and team and consultants were there. And I just can't stress enough how important this is. This is, the next 20 years, and who do we want to be? We're a city that's half-built. We have a lot to do, and we, as a city, truly do want to hear from constituents. And I walked in, and the information that was up on the screen, and the citizens having an opportunity to vote on what they want, what they don't want. It was interactive. It was a workshop. It truly was. It was fantastic. But there were maybe a dozen people there, and this is a huge opportunity for our citizens to be heard about what they want and who they want our city to be, what they want our city to become. So I want to encourage all citizens to really pay attention. You can find more information on planpeoriaaz.com. We're going to be reaching out and sending that out in e-news to get people engaged and contribute and answer those surveys and tell us what you want. It's very, very important, but I appreciate what was happening there, and I learned based on what they were voting on, particularly as it relates to quality of life and the preservation of open space. That was very, very important to everyone there. So we're doing some things right, but we really, really want to hear from everyone. So I encourage all the citizens throughout our city to pay attention to those meetings, go to the website, and please, please participate. This is your city. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. To the staff, again, thank you for everything that you do. The awards that you received tonight are just a small token of the city's appreciation, but I also want to congratulate and thank the family members of all those city employees, because their dedication to allowing their significant other to spend the time to make Peoria a better place does not go unrecognized. And so I just want to thank the family members of all those city employees. Thank you for giving of your time so that the staff could do great and powerful things for the city. On the 22nd of the month, I did partook in the trail cleanup and spent about 4.5 hours in the New River Trail picking up tires, desk, bicycles. I personally pulled out 5 bicycles, 4 giant diesel truck tires, and just countless bags of trash. And the amount of people from both Peoria and Glendale that came out and partook in the event was just phenomenal. So I want to thank staff for putting on that event, and for all the residents that came out and participated in that. Last week I had a unique opportunity to sit in on one of the fire and medical department citizen academies, and I actually went out and did the extrication demonstration and the flashover chamber. What an amazing opportunity for those residents that want to go out and experience what it really, a small piece of what our firefighters do every day when they go into a burning fire. I had to full suit up, oxygen mask, went in, fire right in front of our faces, smoke everywhere. It just gives you a whole new perspective of what the men and women of our departments do every day to protect the residents of our city. So thank you, staff, for allowing me the opportunity to go out and witness it firsthand. The following day, I was down at Sunrise Mountain High School. I was asked by the student council to come out and take a tour and just spend the day with them and talking about government. And so I told them a little bit about what I do as a leader for the Willow District, but also they told me what they do for the leaders of their school. And so we had a really good interaction and gave them some advice. They gave me some great advice. And so it was a really good collaboration of words to really see what is important to them going forward and kind of a foundation of what we do going forward. So I thank them for giving me the opportunity to spend the day with them. And then finally, this last weekend I did partake in the Willow Fest Park Fest, Willow Park Fest, thank you, Mayor. And staff, thank you so much for everything you did. Thanks to Joe over at Walmart for helping donate. We were able to give away 6 bicycles. We had hot dogs, hamburgers, brats, face painting, balloon hats, everything else. We had about 250, I believe, residents from the area that came in and participated. And all of us recognize the importance of these park fests, and I hope that we continue those going forward because I think the residents are really looking forward to these events. They really are an amazing event. And Eric and your team, thank you so much for doing what you did last week. Those bucket trucks and you're right, those little boys and girls were just beaming ear to ear when they were sitting on your lap and pushing all those buttons on that trash truck. They just, it was amazing to watch. So thank you so much. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Finn?
Thank you, Mayor. In the interest of time, I'm going to just say everything that Bill said and not everything that you said because I can't keep up with you. But congratulations to all the staff. And I do want to take a little bit of a different approach, and I want to actually thank council for how well we all work together and we tackle some pretty difficult issues. Redistricting was one of them, and I appreciated the open dialogue, and a lot of councils probably don't go through this as well as we go through it. And Mayor, thank you for your leadership and helping us get through these things. I thought it was a great night, and we got a lot accomplished, and I just appreciate working with all of you and how well we tackle items and get through them. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt?
Well, I'd like to say that I did everything they did, but I certainly did not dig bicycles out of the riverbed. I would still be there if I had tried that. I did go to a school, though. I went to Peoria High School, my favorite, of course, and visited with 10 JAG students who I had asked their teacher to choose them based on the potential that he saw for leadership in these kids. They were freshmen and sophomores. And the idea of me meeting with them was to encourage them in leadership, but also to encourage them to apply to our youth advisory board because unfortunately Peoria High School is the only one in the district that doesn't have any representation there. So watch out, you will next year. Just really great kids and a great program, and I love those guys. We have a real jewel right here in our downtown, and that is the Peoria Center for the Performing Arts, and the resident theater company is TheaterWorks. And last weekend, I believe, I attended a performance of Once Upon a Mattress. Some of you older adults may remember that Carol Burnett starred in that both on Broadway and in the movie. It is a hilarious comedy, and as usual with everything they do, TheaterWorks just does a bang-up job. You will just laugh and laugh and laugh. It really feels good to belly laugh, and that's what you'll have with that, and it's very affordable for an evening. And on the same note, they were talking about the swim scholarships being available. TheaterWorks has scholarships available for their summer camps, and if you are looking for not just daycare, but a good camp, a really good experience to put your kids in for the summer, or at least for part of the summer, It's no more expensive to do that. It's all day than it is to put them in some kind of daycare. And we all know it's not good to leave kids to their own devices all day during any time. And as I say, there are some scholarships available, so I would definitely check into that. What theater does for kids, it doesn't maybe turn them into Broadway actors and actresses, although certainly Emma Stone is from Scottsdale, and she started out in little theater when she was 6 years old. So it did that for her. But what it does is it gives kids confidence. It makes them better students in school. It makes them feel more confident to get up and give a speech in their class, or just to be a leader and to speak out. And then the last thing that I jotted down was I had an email from a lady this week. I do not know her. I assume that she lives in my district, but she had not a serious automobile accident, but I think anytime we have an automobile accident, it shakes us up. And she had received some minor treatment from by minor treatment, I mean she didn't have to be air-evac or anything, but she received treatment from first responders, both police and fire. And she just was writing me to say how nice they were. And we expect that. We know that they're nice. So I wasn't surprised at all to hear that, but I just want to pass that compliment along to police and fire, and to say that it really meant something to this lady. It meant enough that she wrote to me to tell me how nice they were. And again, to follow up what everyone has said, I think Ms. Edwards said it the best when she said every employee deserves one of those cute little things for just to say thank you for the very, very good job that they do. And I really appreciate when we do this, because some of them are either at the MOC or they're tucked away in a back office somewhere. And as council, we don't really get to meet them. So I really, really enjoy that and the dinner over there tonight. And Eric, I know there's something about little boys and trucks. And I want to book your group for my next Park Fest. So Mr. Sefton, I think Bill's gone, write that down. Acacia District wants trucks at their Park Fest. Thank you. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you. Councilmember Leone?
Yes, I want to thank the police department for showing up at one of our block watch meetings. It's important that they come and talk to the constituents, and the constituents can learn quite a bit from them as they're informing them what they can do and what they can't do. So again, I want to thank the police department. The other thing is that no more gas stations in Peoria. I feel that this is something that we don't need. I also want to say that on Saturday we have a shred-a-thon coming up. So bring all your money with you and let's get it shredded. Thank you. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America.
Thank you. Youth Council Liaison Owen?
Thank you, Mayor. On April 27th, 2017, the Youth Advisory Board held a Youth Government Day event at the Student Council Plus Days at the Peoria Sports Complex. There, we gave out 160 free t-shirts, set up cornhole and life-size Jenga, and handed out several Youth Advisory Board applications to some of the 300 in attendance. It was a very successful networking opportunity for the board, as evidenced by our Peoria AZ Teens Instagram account, which more than quintupled in size over the course of the event, which you can follow as well at the handle at Peoria AZ Teens on Instagram. The event was assisted by Cassidy Gaitrist, Caitlin King, and myself. One last point that I want to make is that as my term for youth liaison is coming to a close, I know that the council is in good hands for next year's youth liaisons, having seen how well the Youth Advisory Board has been operating this year and how much we've been getting more recognition and getting more involvement over the course of this year and in the future. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do know that your term, both of your terms, is coming to an end, and that is very sad for us, but it is amazing to sit in this spot and watch the maturity of our youth council liaisons from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. It is just priceless, and we are very, very proud of both of you. Thank you so much for what you've done. And with that, we are adjourned.